Welcome back, guys. I'm so excited for today's episode 8 of the Meet the Creator series. And today we have a special creator on the channel. He has arcade machines and he knows a lot about arcade machines and vending machines. He has some full line machines and everything. And I screwed up the audio when we recorded. I thought I had this mic plugged in, but actually I had this mic plugged in. And my audio is horrible. His audio is pretty good. So don't tear me up in the comments about the horrible audio. And real quick, shameless plug. Me and a friend started the website, and we have a couple different designs of t-shirts on there. This is one of them, straight out of lockdown. If you guys are interested in buying one, a portion of the proceeds will go to charity, Feeding America, and the rest will go to pay for all the money we spent starting it. So stick around and don't go anywhere. You're going to love this guest. I can't wait to show you guys. Can't wait for you guys to meet him. It's going to be great. All right, stick around. Don't go anywhere. Introduce yourself.
Hey guys, my name's Matt. I run a channel on YouTube called Galaxy Games 843. We focus on vending and arcades.
All right, arcades. So where are you guys located out of?
We're actually located in Charleston, South Carolina, so it's a little different from where you're at.
Yeah, we're working with a 3-hour time zone difference here. So
yes.
So I want to ask you, where were you before YouTube and like before vending?
So I've actually been in a regular 9-to-5 job for so many years. And I relocated here to South Carolina about 6 years ago. And since then, that company has closed. So they relocated me and then they shut their doors. So when that happened, I got to the point where I said, I no longer want to rely on one source of income. So of course, since then I found another job, but also while I was looking for that other job, I was also starting to dabble in different things. I was, buying and selling arcade games. I was restoring arcade games, repairing arcade games, and that kind of coin op led me into vending, so I was always coming across vending machines in my arcade buying stuff. And with coming across these different vending machines, I thought, you know what, that might be something kind of cool to generate some more money. And, so then I started watching YouTube videos and I was hooked.
Absolutely. The same thing for me. So what got you into like the buying and selling and repairing of the arcade games?
So it all started with probably about 10 years, maybe 11 years ago. So I had just bought a new house and it had this big full empty basement. So I didn't know what to do. And I always wanted to have like a little game room with like maybe a pool table and stuff like that. So I said to my wife, I said, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to get one of those arcade games like they had on Silver Spoons back in the day. Remember that show? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So she was like, oh yeah, she's like, there's a couple games I like. She's like, I like Miss Pac-Man and I like Dr. Mario. I said, well, let me see if I can find somebody that sells them and we'll go check them out. So after a couple months of searching around, I found a guy who was actually quite local to me. And he had like a big outbuilding on his property. So I went over and I found out that he had all these games, and he started showing me around and showing me like what games were for sale and what games he was keeping, and of the ones that were for sale, which ones worked and which ones didn't work. So I actually decided on one. And as we were leaving, my wife said, well, why don't you just get two? And I was like, oh, I love you. So we ended up getting 2 games, and he delivered them. And then so we had 2 games in this big empty basement. And then I found a Miss Pac-Man that didn't work for a really good price. So I was like, I'll buy it, and I'll, maybe I'll find a way to fix it, even though I don't know what I'm doing. So I bought it, and I started, doing a lot of research, and there was a website I used a lot. It's called Killer List of Video Games. So I went there and I asked a lot of questions and I got a lot of help, and I ended up getting everything up and running, and Miss Pac-Man was working. So now I had 3 games, and from there, it really just kind of took off. It was like an addiction at that point. I was always searching for new games and buying new games and selling games that I wasn't playing as much, and like trying to build this really nice collection of games. And I got to a point where I had about 30 arcade games in my basement. Wow. And then that's when I was told that I was being relocated to South Carolina. So we really only played Donkey Kong and Miss Pac-Man. I played Donkey Kong, my wife played Miss Pac-Man, and those are the 2 we played the most. So what I did was I didn't want to have to move all these games. So I sold all my games except for the Donkey Kong and the Miss Pac-Man, and I made quite a bit of money doing so. So when I got to South Carolina, I had my Donkey Kong, my Miss Pac-Man in my little game room, and first thing I did, I started searching for games in South Carolina, and I started making contacts, and I started buying more games and fixing games and selling games, and it turned into a whole big little hobby, you know.
Wow, that's so cool. So it was total like accidental, kind of how you got into it, right?
Pretty much. I kind of stumbled into the whole thing.
Amazing, so amazing. So, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? Because I'm older in the YouTube community. I'm an older vendor. I'm
Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you older as well?
you know we don't like to talk about our ages, but I'm actually 42. Yes.
Okay, so this is a full-time job for you then now with the vending?
Vending is not a full-time job, unfortunately. I want it to be a full-time job, and someday I hope it will be a full-time job. But right now, I still work a regular office 9 to 5 job.
Okay, so since this isn't your full-time job,
Yeah.
where do you think that you would have to be in order to make it your full-time job?
See, I guess that's a really tough question. My goal would be that I would have to profit. That's after all the product cost and commissions. I would have to profit the same amount of in a year of what I make in my office job. Really.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's smart. And so what are the margins like for you on like overall? I know some fluctuate. I know for me like some are 70%, some are 20%. So I know it fluctuates. Do you have it dialed in to where you pretty much know a good profit margin
You
or
know,
profit margin?
I really don't. When I was doing, because I started off doing only soda machines, and so that it was pretty easy to dial down because every can of soda really cost me the same thing, right? But
Yeah.
since I've broadened into all these different snack machines, now I've got some snacks that cost 70 cents a piece versus some that cost 20 cents a piece. So that's where I'm really trying to have the breakdown when it comes to the margins. I'm not 100% sure yet.
So I know that you have the NIAX card readers on your machines, and I know that that is like one of the best things when it comes to managing your inventory.
Yeah, yeah. I just did a video this past week where I was actually showing how I update my inventory on the fly at my location with the NIAX credit card app. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's amazing because for me, it's a guessing game, right? Like I load the truck up with everything, and then I go down and do everything. So my question with that is, I know that there's a lot of fees associated with the NIAX. Is that correct?
It's really not that bad. It's like $10 a month, and there's a transaction fee for every credit card swipe.
So if you do a credit card swipe, do you do a discount for like cash purchases?
I have a regular price for cash purchases, and it's the extra 10 cents for purchase for with a credit card swipe.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So how much did you like? Did you invest a bunch all at once, or did you slowly accumulate the machines?
Honestly, I've been slowly accumulating the machines. I've been doing this for, oh, let's see, it's been about a year, and now I'm up to like I think 12 machines right now. Um, of course, not every one of them is on location, but yeah, what I usually do, I typically like to buy a machine when a deal becomes available. Um, I will spend a little bit more on a machine if I get a location before I have a machine, but usually I have a machine ready to go when I do get a location.
So speaking of locations, what is the furthest that you're willing to drive out for locations? Because I have a couple locations right now they're interested, and I'm having a really hard time like saying yes. I'm kind of leaving them on the waiting game right now. So is there like a radius that you'd like say that I will not go further than that?
Yeah, that's a tough question because like for me, and I know for you as well, with traffic, that plays a big role. So like something that's 10 miles away from me can really be an hour drive depending on when or what part of town it's in. You know what I mean? What time of day? I'm sure you being in California, you're well aware of how that works. But
Oh
like
yeah.
but I would say depending on the frequency that I'm going to have to visit the location. And usually you can tell that by the type of location it is. But what I also like to do is I like to try and get locations near my house and near my office. So those are like the two things. Like any location I can either get to my from my house or from my office within 20 minutes max.
20 minutes max.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I try to keep it to is about 30 minutes
Mhm.
away from home. This particular location that I was mentioning is about 45 minutes right now. And I think with when everything gets over with and traffic gets back to normal, it's going to be pretty brutal. So I don't know. I'm still on the fence. However, I'm considering maybe selling it. Have you had any experience selling? Like a
Selling
location?
selling locations? No. Because like I said, I've only been in it for a year, so I've never sold a location. I've tried to buy locations, but it seems like everybody that I've tried to buy a location from is way overvaluing their locations.
Yeah.
And especially right now, with everybody's business being way down with this whole thing going on, it's really tough to get a true value right now. Because I know, like for me, my sales are way down. In like I have a laundromat location that's still busy, but it's only doing about half of what it normally does. So if I were to try and sell that location, not that I would, because it's a great location, but if I were to try to, and I would want my regular price, it'd be tough to kind of really get that because of where the numbers are right now.
So I noticed that you on your channel, watching your channel, I see that you've been to several auctions. Now I've never been to an auction. So have you bought any machines from auctions, or do you typically get them like from Craigslist and the typical online sources?
I personally typically get them on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, things like that. I have bought machines at auctions, but I guess that's kind of the nature of the beast. Because it's an auction and they advertise the heck out of it, there's a lot of people there. And so that means the prices usually go for retail or even higher sometimes. So because of that, and plus a lot of these games that are at the auctions, they're fixed up, they're working, they're restored. So, these people are going to get top dollar for them. I like to buy games that are broken because I know how to fix them.
So how did you learn how to fix the machines? Just kind of digging in and figuring it out?
Yeah. Like I said, I started off with that Miss Pac-Man, and then I just kind of got more bold in buying more things. I started buying cabinets that had, missing pieces out of them and water damage, and you know, any given weekend, you can see me cutting the bottom off of a cabinet and putting a whole new piece of wood onto it. It's turned into a carpentry project half the time when I do this
That's
now. You know.
that's so cool. That's so cool. So do they sell? So all of the machines at the auctions are always usually refurbished. They're never like for parts machines.
Typically, all the most of them are either refurbished or they're completely working. There's sometimes what we call the project row at the end of the auction, right before they do the pinball machines, and sometimes sometimes there's things there that are okay, sometimes there's not. Like I know, like the last time I was there was a really, really, really beat up Miss Pac-Man. It was empty inside. It was just a cabinet, and it sold for $300. Now, typically, if I were to come across a $300 Miss Pac-Man and in that condition, I'd walk away.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So how much does it cost typically? Like I know it's going to be it's kind of a difficult to put a number on, but I know that you have refurbished a lot of those machines. If you just got a cabinet and you had to buy, let's say, all the guts for it, and
Mhm.
maybe the display work, what is like the price range that it would cost to kind of get an old busted machine up and running?
Yeah, so basically, it depends on what is in it when you pick it up. So if it's got the CRT screen in it and it doesn't work, it's going to be a lot cheaper to fix it than to try and find a replacement CRT because they don't make CRTs anymore. So finding one of those, you pretty much have to. Honestly, the best way to do that is to find it like an operator somewhere. And when I say an operator, that's like a guy that he runs games on location, things like that. Find one of those somewhere that's got like a warehouse full of like they probably don't have any classics anymore because they've sold all that stuff. But most of them will still have like old poker machines and stuff like that. And you can take the screens out of those machines and put them in the classics because typically they're the same size and they'll work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one
So
little tip.
So it sounds cool. I want to get to one of those auctions, but I'm glad I talked to you first because honestly, I would think that going to an auction would be a place where you could get discounted machines, but you made a very valid point that they're heavily advertised, which brings in a lot of people, which in turn drive price up, correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
So you're better off just kind of shooting for OfferUp, Craigslist, Marketplace, and things of that nature.
That's where I've always found the best deals for me. And like I said, a lot of times they have problems. So, you're gonna have to dive in and do some research and figure out how to fix them.
Awesome. Hey, so we're getting close to the end of the video. I like to try to ask everybody this question at the end of the video. So, if money didn't matter, what would you do? What would you do? Like, what would you do if money didn't matter?
If money didn't matter, I would not go to my office 9 to 5 job. That's for sure.
Yeah, of
um,
course.
I really enjoy vending though, and I really enjoy. It's kind of funny because when I first bought my first arcade game, I bought it because I wanted to play it. But as I've started buying games and fixing games, I find myself more enjoying working on games than playing the games. As crazy as that sounds, I guess there's probably some people out there that like working on cars better than they like driving a car. I guess it's kind of the same thing. But yeah, I really just, there's just something about it. It just kind of relaxes me to just work on an arcade game. Let me ask you a question. What was your favorite arcade game back in the day?
So my favorite, okay, this is an easy answer. So in high school, we had a student like store. We were the Rippin' Indians, so we had the teepee, and inside the teepee we had NBA Jam.
Oh, nice.
Which by far, so I don't think I can narrow it down to one. I might be able to get it down to three here. So NBA Jam for sure was one of my favorite games. Next on the list would probably have to be Street Fighter, just because I mean it's one of the classics,
Iconic,
I pumped so many dang quarters into that machine.
Mm-hmm.
And three would have to be a toss-up between 1942 and like Galaga, because I like those like those shoot 'em up like scrolling type games too. So I like those games too. So those are probably my top three. If I had to choose one to be my ultimate favorite game, I don't know. I can't do it. Those are my top three.
Well, I always like to relay it back to replay value. So games like NBA Jam and Street Fighter 2 or whatnot, they're really cool and they're very iconic. But the replay value on those games, once you own them and you don't have to put quarters in them, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Then your luck kind of runs out, because after you've played a couple games, it's like, well, what's my goal now? So games like Galaga 1942, you can always try and get a better score, and that's why I play Donkey Kong so much, because I'm always trying to get a higher score.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. Yeah, so you're right. So man, you know what? I'm definitely gonna try to get into these arcade machines, because I've always had my eye on it since I first started. And like you said with the vending, it's a strange addiction. I had no idea the impact it would have on me when I first started. I was kind of just looking for content and a way to make some extra money. And then now I'm to the point where I don't even care if I make content about the vending, but I'm still actively looking for machines, crunching numbers, trying to figure out how I can, upgrade the business and how much do I want to expand. So yeah, I mean, it's like I've said this so many times before, but I feel it's like a secret like club, almost like a cult, right? You're like,
I agree, man. I agree.
So hey, thanks so much for taking the time to chill with us, Matt. I'll definitely keep in touch, and I want you to keep in touch too.
For sure.
And I really appreciate you taking the time, because I know it's late over there. If there's any last minute advice you can give anybody that's thinking about getting into either amusement vending or just vending or coin op in general.
My last piece of advice would be, just do your research, because there's a lot of information out there on the net. There's a website called Killer List of Video Games. They've got a great forum. That's going to help you out with a lot of the arcade stuff. When it comes to vending stuff, join the Facebook groups. There are so many Facebook groups out there that both Tim and I are a part of. And there's so many people willing to help out there. We're all willing to help. So
once again, thanks so much for sticking around and chatting with us. And if you guys out there, make sure to go check out Matt's channel. It's Galaxy Games 843, right?
That's right.
On YouTube, and that's the same on IG and across the board.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, you're welcome. So top link in the description. Go show Matt some love, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.